Hello, and on this episode of the Wills and Estates Planning Podcast, we have Liz Killip joining us from Willpower to tell us all about the role of a will writer. Lovely to chat with you, Liz. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Very glad to hear that. So we've got a list of frequently Googled questions here that people are asking. So let's get straight into them then. So for those that aren't really aware, what exactly does a will writer do?
A will writer helps you write a legally valid will to meet your circumstances and protect your family's future, because a legally valid will is how you ensure your property, money and possessions are left to the people you want to and charities you care about. One of our will writing consultants from Willpower will make an appointment to come and see you at your home or conduct a meeting via telephone or Zoom, whichever is preferable to you. And a will writer, during that meeting, they'll talk to you about your personal circumstances, including your money, your property, possessions, your children, and advise you on the best will for your circumstances. They also discuss and advise on who to choose as executors and guardians if necessary, because some people really haven't got a clue about what is needed to make a valid will. They'll also talk to you about who you'd like to benefit and in what amounts, including specific gifts, any charitable legacies. They'll advise you on the best will for you, whether it's a standard will or a trust will, depending on your estate and what you want to protect. That's what a will writer does.
Okay, well, there's a lot there, isn't there? A lot that you help with. So let's go into a little bit more detail then there. So you've touched on it a little bit, but what sort of services does a will writer offer?
Well, here at Willpower, we do will writing and LPAs, drawing up documents for that. So in will writing, we'll deliver a will which reflects your wishes after your death. We then send a will in a draft format based on the discussions we've had with you for you to check. And once you confirm this reflects what you'd like, we prepare a final will and send it to you for signature and witnessing. However, there's plenty of opportunities to talk to us about the will if you don't understand the wording, the legal terminology, if you want to change your mind. Because once you've had the appointment and then you see the will, you probably can't remember what you talked about to the consultant and may not remember what it all does for you. And then we can also arrange to store the will and other important documents in a safe storage facility for you. A will writer also offers advice on lasting powers of attorney, which is, if you don't know, it's a form of protection available for when you're still living. And it's completely different to will because it doesn't actually work once you've died. It's only for when you're alive. There are two types. There's property and finance and health and welfare. And an LPA, well, I'll call it an LPA from future, they're called lasting powers of attorney, enables you to identify people who you trust and love, who you wish to take care of your affairs if you become ill or lack capacity or you get injured or you can't make your own decisions or maybe you travel abroad. So that's the main things that we do will writing LPAs. But within will writing, there's a lot of different trust wills that we can do or how we can help you. We can do asset protection, we can do trust wills, we can do estate administration, and I can go into these briefly a little bit more. Asset protection is where house prices have been soaring and inheritance tax thresholds have remained unchanged over the years. We find that many of our property-owning clients find that their total assets exceed these thresholds. And so on their death, their estate can be liable for inheritance tax or with care fees. Some clients are expected to use the value of their homes to pay for these charges. But there are asset protection options available for mitigating these effects and help you protect your assets. But again, this is something that the consultant would go in detail with you once they've found out what your estate is worth. We also do trust wills, where a trust is created within the will to allow you to protect your property and assets you wish to pass on your death. And again, there's various trusts included, which we could possibly go into in another podcast, which are life interest trusts, discretionary trusts, children's trusts, vulnerable adults trusts. You literally create the trust in the will and appoint people to manage it, who are called trustees. They can be the same person as executors or appointed separately. We also at Willpower offer estate administration. This is basically the process of handling a person's legal and tax affairs after they've died. They're responsible for administering the estate, or an executor administrator can also instruct a professional to do so. Probate can be required, but it depends on the size and complexity of the estate. This is generally referred to as applying for a grant of probate or letter of administration if there isn't a will in England and Wales. Will writers, unlike solicitors, who charge by the hour, our help with your will and LPAs is free of charge initially with the consultation, and you only actually pay when you agree for us to prepare your legal documents. And unlike the pitfalls of doing an online or do-it-yourself will, we have years of experience as will writers to help ensure your will reflects your wishes and is legally valid. In a nutshell, that's what a will writer does.
Wow. Okay. Well, a brilliant breakdown there, Liz. So thank you for that. Hopefully that all makes sense, and for breaking down a bit of the jargon there as well. So moving on then, this is an interesting question, and I'm sure a very popular question. When should I see a will writer?
It is an interesting question because a lot of people say, oh, I don't need a will. It's all going to go to X, Y, or Z, and they don't realise that it's not going to. People are, I don't know, scared of making a will, or just think it's too complicated, or think, oh, I'll do it another day. We suggest people make a will. Well, you can make a will from when you're 18, but when they buy a property or get married or civil partnership, or to avoid dying intestate. And intestate is when you die without a will. Having children is also another significant sort of milestone where you would want to specify who would look after your children should something happen. Again, people don't think about that, about what things could go wrong if they haven't actually specified who they want to be their guardian. Also, divorce would mean that your existing will would have a different effect. It wouldn't be invalid, but it would have a different effect. So you'd have to make sure you make another will as soon as possible. Again, you should see a will writer if you get married, because marriage automatically revokes a will. The will you currently have wouldn't exist. Again, people, when they remarry, they may want to wish to change their wills, because with blended families, you want to ensure your children's inheritance is protected. Grandchildren, again, that could also trigger wanting to make specific provision for them in a will. Sadly, if a spouse or a partner passes away, that means if you do have a will, it may no longer be valid or appropriate. We suggest even people who have wills that they review their wills minimum every 5 years, should check there are no changes in circumstances that need to be considered, or legislation's changed, or property prices may push you over a tax threshold. So there's plenty of good reasons to see a will writer.
Yes, definitely. A lot to bear in mind there. So again, that's really, really useful. So I suppose then, and again, you've probably touched on this a little bit, but what is the process? What would happen if I called you today?
You'd be making a very sensible decision. You call us today. One of the people in the office would take a few details, and then we'd make a no obligation appointment with one of our consultants. It could be at home, depending on where you live, Zoom or telephone, and they would discuss and advise on your personal circumstances and what they would think would be the best thing for you, which would be the best will, whether it's a standard will or a trust will. Once you agree for us to proceed, we then draft your will according to these instructions, and we send you a draft by email or post for you to look at, approve. And as I've said before, you can then ring us up and discuss it, or the consultant can call you back if there's any point you don't understand, because it will be written in legal language, which it has to be to make it watertight. So a lot of people think, oh, why can't it just be written really nicely and easily to read? It has to be done just to make it valid for when you die. But once you approve the draft and you've asked any questions, or you've made amendments, or you've suddenly thought, oh, I want to give this to someone, we then send you a final copy, like with a ribbon on it, or it'll be bound for signature and witnessing, and we send thorough instructions on this. Otherwise, you can come to the office and we can sign the wills here with the people in the office under our supervision. We can then also have the facility to store your will in. We've got safe storage facilities. We then will send you a copy, and we'll write to the executors telling them what to do in the event of a death. We don't actually send a will to the executors. That's up to the person who's made the will to do so if they wish. We'll then call you probably in 5 years' time to see if you'd like a will review. There is a similar process for LPAs they don't get drafted, but we send you out the documents to sign. But as I say, at any point, even once you've made your wills, you've signed them, we're always here to talk to people about any questions they have whatsoever, because it is a daunting subject, but once you've done it, it gives you a lot more peace of mind.
Yeah, I bet it does. Like you say, I suppose it is so daunting, isn't it? But that was a really clear kind of outline of how that process works. So hopefully that sounds reassuring to anybody listening to this. Now, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier on, but we'll just cover it anyway. So what is the normal fee for a will writer, and does it cost for an initial consultation with you?
No, I mean, there's no charge for even when people ring up, and I sometimes do a lot of talking on the phone to them before we actually make an appointment. It's a bit like a triage, really. So I'll chat to them about the circumstances, and then once they've thought, yes, we would like to go ahead and talk to someone, they have as I say, this initial consultation for which we don't charge. And we do offer advice. They can go away, they can come back in a week, whenever they're saying, oh yeah, we'd like to go ahead, or they can decide on the day. So a standard will for a single person is £120. And for a joint will, either a married couple or a civil partnership, is £160 plus VAT. But we're very transparent about our pricing, because we've got our price list on our website if you wanted to look.
Okay, there we go. I suppose everybody's individual circumstances are so different, aren't they?
Yes,
So I
they are,
suppose it
completely.
varies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, we are recording this episode in July 2023. Now, Liz, we've covered an awful lot there, so thank you for that. Have you got anything else you would like to add?
Basically, Willpower has been established since 1992, so we've been around for 30 years, and we are a member of the Institute of Professional Will Writers, which regulates will writers. We've got a friendly and helpful team in the office who are always available to chat on the phone about anything.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you again, Liz. Thank you for your time. Hopefully we've helped a few people out on the episode, and I'm sure we'll catch you again on the podcast soon.
Yes, you will. Okay.